This is the Mind Body Detox Podcast, where we discuss all things integrative health and wellness, interviewing folks from all over the world, sharing insights and wisdom on how to live a healthier life in mind, body, and spirit.
Interested in us going through our list of red flags and us to make some commentary on them?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Red flags. Then we're going to go into green lights, things that we want. Again, we want to end with an empowering note, like what to
100%.
What to look for sure. So, my first red flag, and then we'll kind of interweave some of my stories here that I've had. So, I am so grateful now at this time for the things that have happened over the last couple decades in this profession. My partner, Matt, has been with me through these, and there was some very painful, challenging tears, rage, anger, sadness through these processes. But honestly, this is the life right now. This is the collective movement towards taking away where there's corruption and misuse of power in all areas, not just our profession, in the government, in religion, in school systems, in any sort of system where there's just misuse of power, or the power is not able to be wielded in a way that's supportive and helping uplift people. So this is what we're here to do collectively. All of us, you listening out there, you have a role in some way. And so we're also rolling this together. So the first red flag that we wanted to talk about is unsolicited private messaging on social media. All right, Beck.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Oh, I have a lot to say about this because this has been happening to me for literally 3 years. On TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everywhere. People basically, because I even hate to say, I have a large following. I don't. I make videos, stupid little videos on TikTok. And because of that, and because I've gained traction because of that, people like to take my content and then block me so I can't even see the account. And then they systematically go through my followers list and just message them with like the Grand Rising beloved, I notice a dark energy around you and you desperately need a tarot. I had someone call me today, like at the shop, be like, hey, I think you just messaged me about a tarot reading. How do I set that up? And I'm like, I promise you I didn't. I don't have time. I don't have time to sit down and message every single one of my followers, So if anyone is ever reaching out to you over social media that you don't know, one, check the username. And if it looks weird, it's not real. If you can find an account with more followers than the weird one that followed you, it's probably a scammer of your favorite TikToker or YouTuber or whoever. And it's heartbreaking, to be like, I'm sorry, something that's been going on for years. And it's really kind of shocking to me that people don't know about this. Especially last week, I have about 125 messages sitting in my message requests that are like, hey, did you know you have a person highlighting, scamming your account? And I'm like, yeah, I do. I've been talking about this for years. Check out my pinned post about it, you guys. So just be aware of who you're messaging. And if people are asking you for money, up front, that's kind of a red flag for me. Or hey, send it to my Venmo. And then the Venmo name is nothing the username. Just have a little bit of discernment, when it comes to that. I get that it's you feel chosen, you feel special, but I hope that people can kind of step outside of that, use some of our I don't know, Queen of Swords or just the swords energy in tarot to cut through the bullshit by using our mental clarity. So I get passionate about it because these are people who are taking my content that I worked hard on and then using that to prey on individuals. And then people get mad at me and demand refunds from me for services I never provided. So it's I can't, I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about this. But anyways, yeah.
I'll touch base on that too. So my issue with the messaging comes from Instagram a lot.
Yeah.
So because I follow a lot of different Wiccan, pagan,
Mhm.
and witch accounts, right? I get these messages and it's like, "Hi, dear. I just have been so drawn to you and I feel like you need a reading." And I usually respond, right? "Yeah, I would love a reading. That's fantastic. Give me a reading." And they're like, "All right, what's your sign?" I was like, "I'm a Leo." And then they're like, "Okay, just send money here." I'm like, "Oh no, no, sweetie, I am not paying you for that. If you want to give me a free reading over, Messenger, since
Right.
you messaged me, right? I didn't message you and request a reading because then I would have my wallet ready, right? But it's like these phishing scams to fish into your wallet. And maybe they have something set up or a manager that does that. That's how they make their money. And maybe they're a good reader. Maybe they are.
I love that you're not assuming, because there may be people out there that are using that as a way
Yeah,
to market for
yeah,
themselves.
yeah.
But it still feels like it's crossing a boundary when no one
Right.
asked. Just like
As a
Right.
reader,
yeah,
as a
Right.
reader,
yeah,
I feel like that if you're going to have an automated message bot to trick me into making me feel like you actually felt like I needed a reading,
yeah,
right? See, that's the thing. There's
Mhm.
dishonesty before you even introduced yourself, and that's the red flag for me.
yeah, yeah. Well, red flag for me. So you're really in different groups. You said with pagan and witchy groups. I, on the other hand, my flavor. So we're talking about readings in general today too. We've really highlighted tarot, but astrology. I am a medium as well, so I'm also a body worker and a licensed massage therapist and an energy worker. So Reiki also follows into that practice. So a lot of these are still kind of fringe, and a lot of them are unlicensed. So that's where we get this potential. And so my flavor of people are more the individuals that have a different brand and way they present themselves as an intuitive artist or an intuitive healer or a reader. So they look more like love and light, angel readers, angel cards. So we have the other side of it that one of the things I love about that is that there are people that tarot has been flavored for them in a way that seems too dark, or it's not their flavor. It's like different styles of music. So they find a reader that feels safer for them, especially if they're coming from a background of a religious background and it seems too scary. So even on the other side, so I want to, again, we're not trying to villainize anyone here, but even on the other side, because for me, there is a stigma and a stereotype of the disempowerment that we see in some of the earth-based religion communities where people do come out, they come to the metaphysical bookstore. Can you get me a candle to curse my ex-boyfriend? Can you get me the money candle? Can you get me these things? Those are just understandings from Hollywood. So we have to do education from a place of compassion. And what me and Matt always say to people when they come into the bookstore is, none of this stuff works. See those crystals over there? None of that works. This is all a ruse. All of these things are tools. They're tools. They're mental anchors for you to find the power within yourself.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times people's eyebrows go up when we say that at first. They're like, what? But either way, depending on where people are coming from, you have this stigma of, well, a witch would do that. They would reach out to you, or they would put a hex on you, or they would ever.
Right.
It's unfortunate that this is a stereotype. Okay. But then we have on the other side, we have people that do have a perception that people maybe who are angel card readers. I'm a medium, and I'm a wholly different brand. If you look at my social media, my Instagram, I have rainbows everywhere because that's my thing. I'm a rainbow love and light person, but I'm also someone that doesn't spiritually bypass. I also like to get into the nitty gritty and the dark spaces ourselves. Shadow work's important, and that's a whole other episode. But the whole point is that those people can still also reach out to you in this fashion of, hey, I really just felt that you are a healer, or I sense that you're a channeler, or I sense that you speak to the Pleiadians. You're a starseed, just like me. And so, whatever
Yeah.
language it's using, whether it's using the framework of the belief system from more of an earth-based religion, or more of a new ager, more starseed, light, um, fifth dimension, that whole language. You hear people saying jumping into different dimensions. There's whole different, like the whole universe is wide and vast in the spiritual community. There's so many options and cool things to explore. But it doesn't matter from what angle you come from. There are still people that are going to try to pull on your ego and make you feel special. And I think, cross a boundary. I'm someone that personally believes that it's wrong for Teresa Caputo, the Long Island medium, to go up and do psychic drive-bys. Just like walk up to someone randomly at the gas station, say, hey, your dead grandma's here. Now, I personally think that she has a purpose in being that face and being the person to go do that, because in the Hollywood scene, it creates a entertainment factor, and it does support our work as readers because she's a Catholic. And so many people now who did not or would not have ever gone to a medium in the past, because Teresa Caputo is still Catholic, she's still practicing, she still goes, it helps it be safe for those individuals. And so I'm very grateful for her for that. But I also still personally believe that it's not okay to give unsolicited readings without someone's permission, and not read other people's mail psychically without and
Right.
that kind of thing. But unsolicited readings in general, either it's private messaging you on social media or coming up to you and saying, I want to tell you something. Now, we've had certain situations in the past, Matt and I, Matt's also a medium, where someone's life was at hand and we actually had to deliver a message, but we don't deliver it in a way like I'm a medium. We've had interesting ways that spirit helps guide us to make a connection with someone. Hey, I want to talk to you about this, and be able to interject that information, that they can hear it, that they get the information so it can support maybe their life in some way. And they don't take their own lives. They don't get in a car accident that they were both to, even if it was us holding them up for 5 minutes,
Right.
like go talk to that person. Because if you don't talk to them, you might get in a car accident, like those type of things. But I think when you come at it from a place where you are putting your spiritual gifts on a platter and saying, I am an all-powerful reader, you must come listen to me. This goes into our second red flag, which is showboating. So
Big
let's
one.
talk about showboating. So number one is unsolicited private messaging for readings or in person. I'm going to end person too. If someone just runs up to you and asks you, you need to have consent, give consent. So let's talk about showboating.
So my one big red flag about showboating.
What is showboating?
So showboating is clout, right? So this is where the reader loves to be viewed as the reader and the right answer, and just like that God self mentality, right? For me, also though, showboating, and I don't know how you feel about this, Beck, but whenever, because I love to get readings from other readers, I really enjoy outside perspective because I'm biased towards myself.
Yes, I agree.
I used to shuffle the cards again. Don't
No,
tell me. Don't tell
me
me.
too. Oh, totally. If I didn't like it, but I would always get the same message, like just different cards. And I was like, you know what? Rude.
Yeah,
We'll do this again later. Yeah, I got you. But that's why, like, every therapist has their own therapist. I feel like every tarot reader has at least one other person, even if it's just a friend, and you're like, girl, deal the cards. Let's just see,
right.
So, yeah, I agree.
My big thing is, and I have seen this in the past, where like, that what is it, Althazar or whatever, the machine guy that has like the wizard hat on and he predicts your future. It's like,
sure, yeah.
No, well,
Right?
it's
Go
like
in there and he
the
gets the
it's like the carnival thing where he puts quarters
Right.
and Althazar reads your future.
Yeah.
That kind of showboating where like, okay, we're going to do a tarot reading. I have my crystal ball. I have the wizard cape on, and
you're wearing the costume.
I'm wearing the costume, right?
Yeah.
That's a first hard pass for me. I will not participate in that one because I honor tarot with reverence and I won't make it a carny show.
Right.
So that's my form of showboating. That is clearly, I'm like, no.
Yeah.
I will say I like the vibes. I will set dress depending on where I'm at. But yeah, when it gets to a point of like, I'm the only one, I am the great Althazar, like that, when it gets to be like, I know all the answers, I'm like, well, you're just evangelizing now. So let's back up a little bit,
Yep.
So we had an experience with a local practitioner, multiple complaints about a local reader, that people were having experiences where they were diminishing them in the readings. I had a personal reading with this individual that was diminishing me, saying, oh, you're a young soul and you wouldn't be here without this person in your life. And you have a lot of things to learn. And, that type of message delivered in that way is really, really can be harmful. And so this individual, multiple times, we had many people that had said, this person really likes to make you feel like shit. Condescending, that kind of thing. And we actually had an experience that was really, really hard for us, and we weren't sure what to do. We had a celebration of life event for one of our dear friends. And this event had only standing room only individuals that were at this event. Now, during the beginning of planning this event, the spouse who had been left behind was in a grieving state. So the individual who we're talking about, this reader, stepped in and said, well, I will be the MC for this celebration of life. I'll hold the microphone, I'll be up there at front, and I'll allow other people to come say their piece. So what was really hard for us is we were like, this is not the person to let MC this individual who's a huge pillar in this community, who's made a big impact. And they are not the right person. But in this person's grieving state, they were like, yeah, go ahead and take it and do it. I just can't process right now.
Right.
So we were standing at the back of the room watching. You want to go from here and take it from here of what happened?
Yeah. So I remember, so I work in, well, up until recently, I work in the cemetery industry. I have laid thousands of souls to rest and attended many wakes and celebrations of life. And I can honestly say that I have never experienced anything like this, whether secular, metaphysical, or Christian celebration of life.
Yeah.
Where they're honoring a fantastic staple in the community that was just vibrant and full of life. And this MC was plugging their book at this loved one's celebration of life multiple times. And I think on the third one, I looked at my one friend and I was like, we're leaving. And we left.
Yeah.
Because
I'm sorry that happened. That's so awful. Oh my goodness.
Clout, right?
Yeah.
That is the self-only mindset.
Yes.
It's
right?
ego, right?
And I think it's almost beyond ego. It's like Super Saiyan ego, right?
Ego with a capital E,
Not just energy, but souls,
right?
Right. I think it was really hard for me at the time because this person had a huge following in the community. And I think people who were at that celebration were upset about it, but they didn't want to cause drama during the event. We wanted to respect the individual we were coming to show up for. And we were like, what was happening was this individual had not passed. This is the bigger thing. The individual had not passed. So they were actually in their transition, in their home. We had set up a screen for them so that it was live streaming so they could see everyone coming and telling them goodbye. I love you.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
It was beautiful. But then this individual was, and we were like, oh my gosh, I cannot. We went to their house to be with them as they were passing. Went to apologize to say, I think I walked in, I was cursing this individual, and I was like, how dare they? How can this be happening? Why is not anyone standing up and stopping this? I didn't feel like it was my place. We didn't know what to do because it was like, we didn't want to cause more drama. But this individual plugged their book multiple times and proceeded to bring up some dirty garbage or some issues of the individual who's passing about their health conditions, about their lifestyle, things that this individual was private, would have never shared with hundreds of people.
Right. And that was also live streamed.
Yeah.
So that's like the max red flag. Like you can't get more of a red flag.
But by the way, buy my book because I'm an amazing psychic, powerful person.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was really hard for that. That was like
it's $17.99 on Amazon.com.
Yeah. So that's a big red flag. Showboating is a big red flag.
Mm.
So the next
Yeah.
one we're going to move into is allowing you to book excessive readings. So very regularly, weekly, or something like that. Oh, come back in next week. This is a big one. I had an individual that came to work with me, had been in Baltimore for seeing a reader, and they said to me, well, yeah, I see the reader every week. And I'm like, really? And yeah. And so it also progressed to, she said, that she bought a $3,000 quartz crystal from her to heal a curse on her family.
Oh, whoa.
And so my reaction, like, I don't want this person to feel ashamed for not having discernment. This is not right. I don't reaction to my anger towards that person, to my client, to perceive that like if I did something wrong. She did nothing wrong. And so that was interesting. I just said, well, what's the name of your reader? I'm just curious. Just jot this down. Okay.
Was it the same one we talked about?
This was a different one.
Sorry.
No, this is a different one. Yeah. So that's something, but allowing yourself to book sessions, your readers, when you get a reading, it should be something that will be for a life-changing transition, for an update, for maintenance, for checking in. It's not
for fun. It doesn't have to be that serious even, honestly. Like, I have people who are like, should I come back next month? I hear people, what do you prescribe? And I'm like, whenever you feel called, come see me. I'm here all the time. Like, I'm always here. I don't care,
What are the things that you would share as a reader that could be powerfully supportive from the community at this time, for other readers out there, for other people who are clients? What can they do to support us in this transition as we're going to start working on making this law change, and also making sure that we hold people accountable in the reading community that are red flags?
Absolutely. So my big thing, and I don't know who's going to listen to this, but if you can, take the high road and be an exemplar of your faith. Whatever path that is. Most of us come from a place of wanting to do good and put good out into the world. So how amazing is it going to be when, the people who are touted as evil, like hateful, like people who, are all dressed in black and have tattoos and stuff. How amazing is it to turn around and shock people and to be like, oh no, I'm actually like a really good person and I love you because you are my neighbor, and despite any differences. And for people who are, not necessarily readers or, have that strong faith path, if you're just getting into this, come hang out at metaphysical stores. Honestly, as many online tarot readings as you can get, there is nothing like establishing a relationship, not only with somebody like the reader, but imagine the people you're going to bump into anytime you go. Those are your new friends. That's your new coven, right? I hear all of these people desiring connection, and I know that COVID told us to like stay inside, right? I get that, but mask up and go out there and support everyone that you can, because we're all little tiny shops all over the place. But I think there's evidence that there is a community behind me, at least, all over the place, where even if you don't see it, just know that it's there and walk with that confidence of the hundreds of thousands of people who are behind you, who agree with this, who believe that there is an alternative. So right now, though, it is, I think, of the utmost importance not to do like the shock factor type of stuff. How beautiful is it to walk with decorum and walk with that quiet strength, that empowerment of being a witch, of knowing your inner power and knowing that this is your path. So that's all. I know that seems very intense, but I hope that, my community and anyone else watching this knows that they're empowered, knows they can come here anytime they need if they have questions. And just ultimately, I want good to come from this. And we need to be professional in order to make professional change.
Thank you so much, Beck. Thank you so much for being with me.
Thank you. Oh, you guys are so sweet.
Pleasure.
So yes, thank you so much, darling.
Absolutely. Have a good one, you guys. Thanks for having me on. Enjoy your conversation. I'll talk to you later.
Good luck with your phone call.
So I would encourage you to, if you are a part of a metaphysical community or spiritual community, continue to go into your physical spaces. I mean, even if they have an online store now, like what she's saying is really powerful. After COVID, 36 years with New Visions being open, we have a thriving community. every Friday night they would be packed, that house, if some sort of a presenter or some sort of person there. And we have Friday night forums back. So if you are local to New Visions Books and Gifts, York, Pennsylvania, we do have Friday night forums. They are back. So encourage you to attend those, encourage you to go to the Serpent's Key, encourage you to follow them on Facebook and Instagram. We'll put all that information in the show notes for you, and to really connect with your people. And of course, if you are not local, you don't have a local metaphysical bookstore, we do have online activities and online space for individuals who are seeking that community. And so we'll share information about that in the show notes too. All the Friday Night Forum presenters are live streamed and recorded. So we have all sorts of interesting, cool things. Like coming up, we have platform tarot readings with Pat Dumas. So if you're on there live, you get a platform tarot reading with her, a 3-card spread. And angel people, Tom and Katie Hurd are really popular. So I could go on. But that is the beautiful legacy that Bill and Bob have left for us, and continues. Bob continues to shine that light here in South Central PA, holding spaces for people like Beck to open her store, to open the space over there. So we really want you guys to continue to support these spaces and the community, most importantly, that's involved around these, to connect in with them online and or in person. So I want to continue on with our red flags, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. I would be honored.
All right. So I will share, let's talk a little bit about asking you to abandon your family or cut ties with your people in your life. These are obvious red flags to me, but they may not be for other people. If anyone's saying, oh, even like a covert way of like, these people have low vibes, good vibes, good vibes, bad vibes. This is kind of a lingo thing you hear, in mainstream culture of like, you got to keep your vibes high. Well, no one as a reader or a practitioner of any sort should even ever tell you to cut ties with someone. Oh, they have bad vibes. Get them out of your life. Because it might be more of a covert way, instead of leave your family, leave your children, come join my cult. Like that's obvious. But even if someone says to you, well, they have really negative vibes, maybe you should cut them out of your life, because to live a high vibe lifestyle, you have to have no people in your life that have negative vibes.
Right. So that's that whole like everything's love and light, and if there's something that's not love and light, you need to get rid of it.
Yeah. But they shouldn't ask you to cut ties with anyone.
No. And I have experienced that. I'm sure you have over the years too, where actually you just shared an example of that, where like in a way, but yeah, where someone tells you to leave your husband or your wife, and instead of approaching it that there are steps that need to be taken here, there's things that you can do. You have to ask yourself if this is serving you. One, if you're happy. If you're not happy, you need to do something to make yourself happy, and maybe you and your partner can take that journey together. Right? It's not a end all thing. And I think that readers that are, even if you know that that's what your reading is saying, you must approach it with decorum. There have been times where cards have the cards selected really talked about separation and the needing to separate, right? Those happen sometimes, and they are tough readings to deliver. But whenever I get those types of readings, I always handle it with the utmost care, because one, I'm not a home wrecker. I don't want my home wrecked, and I wouldn't wreck someone else's. So we approach it with professionalism and options, right? Maybe you guys should attend some counseling because it looks like you guys are struggling, or whatever the case is. Not just like, well, that's it, fuck them, give them the ring back and we're out. We can't do that. That's not ethical.
Well, I think that anytime you're getting involved in someone's personal life beyond, here's what I'm seeing here is for clarity, the purpose for clarity, for you to make your own decisions. That's important. Or even if you are, a medium like myself, or doing afterlife communication, sometimes there's the aspect of grief that comes up and emotions and knowing your scope of practice. So your reader should never, unless they are a licensed counselor, they should never be counseling you. They should never be telling you you have a health issue that you need to take this medicine, or you need to do this practice for your own personal health. And they shouldn't be giving you legal advice. Now,
Right.
the way that I would share, if someone does go to a practitioner like myself, I'm a medium, but I'm also a medical intuitive. In how I read for people, it's never diagnosing. It's never saying, oh, you have diabetes. I'm seeing diabetes, or I'm seeing cancer. That's the biggest thing that people sometimes will get readings with me. I just want to know if I have cancer. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. That's
Right.
not how it works. Imagine for myself as a medical intuitive, I see the energy field in the body and around the body. So if there's disruption in that field, it's going to cause disruption in the area of the body, the organs of the body that it's associated with, and the emotional capacity, the mental, spiritual capacities that's associated with that area. So, for example, I had a client years ago that I was seeing almost just a diffraction, like the light around her aura was diffracted around the front of her abdomen, her lower abdomen, right over the left ovary. And it was interesting. I just said to her, and I do an illustration, a drawing of this, and just to kind of share what I'm seeing and what emotions that I'm seeing or feeling are associated with that might be happening. So she can not only go and work with a counselor if there's something emotionally that's creating an imbalance in the energy field, because there is a mind-body connection. And if there's something going on medically, I'm not diagnosing you. I'm not saying there's a cyst there. I'm not saying what's going on. I just know that there's something diffracted. There's something happening, either overactivity in the energy system, underactivity. There's something that's imbalanced here. And so she took that image and she called me a year later. She says, I wish I would have followed what you had shared with me, because you had shared, just go check with your doctor, go see your gynecologist, right? That's not diagnosing. That's just saying, this is what I'm perceiving here in the energy field
Right.
as a medical intuitive. I'm not going to give words that are diagnosed words to it, but I'm going to give you an essence of what I'm sensing. She had to get an emergency hysterectomy the year later, like right a year later. And she said, I wish I would have listened to you, but what you were sharing is exactly what was going on in that area on that left side. And I was like, wow, that's really cool, because we as readers sometimes don't know.
Right.
So that's an interesting story of just some good things that can happen, but they should never be diagnosing you. So that's, don't let them tell you what to do with your life, legally, professionally, your health, your relationships. Another thing would be putting other spiritual readers or healers down by name. I think that that's just unprofessional in general.
Yeah.
Anything to say about that?
Yeah.
Spiritual bypassing is one that's a big red flag for me. So if you are going through a space of grief, and if a reader says to you something like, well, it's okay, it all happens for a reason. And what some of us believe that, but when someone's going through a space of grief, we don't want to bypass their emotions and not allow them to go through that space, allow them to seek counsel, to see someone else if they are processing something that's coming up in the reading. And I think that that's too often very common in the spiritual community, that everything is happy, everything's perfect, and it's okay. We did another episode on that, so if you want to go into that further, I can put that episode link in the show notes on spiritual bypassing. Number 9 is not allowing recording of the reading.
Yeah,
that's a huge red flag.
That's a big one.
I'm always like, let's record this. Anything you want to record, and of course, then it might make sense to you later.
Yeah.
So,
I encourage it because there may be something that doesn't make sense exactly at that time. I always try to elaborate when I'm with someone that may have a question about a certain card in a certain position. But yeah, if you record it and maybe the next day they re-listen to it and they're like, oh my God, because people get nervous when they're with a tarot reader.
Yes.
They're anxious and their energies are high. So something that is meant for them, they may not be receiving at that time because of the anxiety and anxiousness that they feel.
Yeah. One of the other things that's sometimes common when people find out I'm a medium, they get nervous around me and they start to feel like I'm seeing everything.
Are you reading my thoughts
right now? Yeah. And I'm like, no, I'm not in reading mode, because that would be overwhelming for my nervous system to pick up all that information. But it's something that people assume, and then they get really weird. And then that's where the power differential starts to happen, where you start to give away your power to a reader. They have all supernatural powers. I don't. Oh my gosh, they must be better than me. They must be more evolved than me as a human being or a spirit or something like that. We start to give these labels, and that's the first mistake. We start to dehumanize them and see us as readers. We get put on a pedestal by you. And so we encourage you to recognize that we're all human, recognize we make mistakes, and recognize that when you are giving away your power, and giving away your power by saying, I don't know the answers, they do. This is a reflecting point for you to get some clarity, get some perspectives that can help you. But that's something that's a big challenge, I think, is making sure you're not giving away your power to the reader, for sure. So the last one here is, I think, pretty obvious, but sometimes it's not so obvious. Unprofessional sexual or other invitations outside the professional setting. So it can be sometimes unspoken. If you have a reader that is coming at you in a sexual way or making passes at you, it can just feel like an energy thing. That person their body language could be seen perfectly fine. They're not doing anything wrong. But if you feel that there's something going on, now, first off, if you have sexual trauma or something like that, a lot of times when we are healing from that, like a lot of spaces can seem unsafe. And a reader or someone that maybe not making passes at us could just feel unsafe. It could be bringing up trauma, could remind us of something. So they could be completely innocent and not doing anything wrong. But there is sometimes that energetic sense, like there's some creepy vibe. I don't know about this person. Something about them doesn't feel right. I don't like it. I don't know what it is. But it could be, this feeling that they're thinking dirty thoughts about you during the reading. Now, that may or may not be happening. You cannot prove that, right? But if you start feeling that way and you just feel uncomfortable at all with a reader, maybe they're not the reader for you.
Right.
And so this is one of the things with John of God, one of the healers that from Brazil that got a big news. We had some individuals come to our center years ago that were really in support of him, and they wanted to show a documentary of this gentleman. They wanted to have this crystal light bed that had his whole thing on it. And I was like, sure, let's check it out and see what it is. And I remember the moment I saw the video of the guy, I was like, this is just so apparent to me as a reader, just like with Bikram and some of the stuff at the yoga community, some of these gurus that ended up sleeping with their consorts. This is everything that happens when you don't allow yourself to look at the shadow side of your human nature and you get lost in drunken spiritual power. You end up forgetting that there is human nature side of you. And this is when you sweep things under the rug. And that's when weird power plays come out that involve sex and other things. So we're all for embracing all aspects of your human self as a reader, not like it's all love and light and need to evolve into the upper chakras and, be a higher being and not understand that I'm also human and I have primal needs. This individual, John of God, he was someone that was convicted and now is in jail of sexual assault and sexual abuse with a lot of the people that came to his healing place in Brazil. Thousands of people, thousands. And so I felt that. Right. I was like, something about this guy does not feel right in my stomach, in my chest. So again, there was nothing I could do to prove it. And this is where for me for years, I was like sitting here, like I had people that I respect, that I love in the spiritual community that were like, we're going down to the Brazil to see the John of God. And I was like, okay, all right, it's not my path. It doesn't feel right. I don't know about this, but and later, and it's not like hey, I'm like, oh, I told you so. It's just almost like I wish I could have figured out the ways to express it then. And really more, you can't really always help people. So if you have someone, just a friend or a family member that's seeing a reader or seeing anyone, even a partner, a boyfriend or girlfriend that you're like, that's not a good person for you. You've had friends like this where you can't talk them out of it.
Yep.
So it is a journey that we all have to take to learn discernment. But again, this episode is about giving you the red flags up front. And you can share this episode with people that maybe you are experiencing, friends or family that maybe are not having these red flags in front of them so they can think about it too.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's a big one.
So I'm just going to refresh these. No unsolicited private messaging on social media. If they're claiming to be the best, the highest evolved, the most godlike, watch out for that. Showmanship, allowing you to book excessive readings very regularly. That's the red flag. Asking you to abandon your family or cut ties with people in your life. Telling you what to do with your health, your legal bank accounts, relationships, whatever. And putting any other readers or healers down by name. This is, like I said, the biggest thing why I was like, how do I speak out about these people without saying their name? Because I don't want people to put people down, but we still need to expose this stuff. Spiritual bypassing, not allowing recording of the reading or unprofessional sexual invitations or other encounters. Yeah. So the next three I just want to talk about are just yellow flags. So these are things that really depends on the circumstances. It depends on the person, depends on the situation. So claiming they can lift curses and hexes. Now there are actual services that work with this particular space. And
Correct.
if you are experiencing something where you feel that your power's been taken away and you're feeling really scared, I don't care if you actually have a curse or a hex on you. If you can go to a practitioner that can help you take your power back and really eradicate that from your mental body, from your space, and allow yourself to feel more empowered, whether it's whatever ritual needs to be done. If that's something that supports you, do it. But if it's done in a way where they're disempowering you, asking for more money, saying there's more steps involved and that you need to keep coming back to them and keep paying them every year to make sure the hex or curse is taken away or staying away, that's a big flag to me.
Yeah, just subscribe.
Yes. Just subscribe every month to make sure your curses are lifted.
Yeah, and it only goes up 10% each month.
Yeah. Yeah. Asking for exorbitant amounts of money. We talked about this $3,000 healing crystal situation.
Yep, that's a big one. And, not that, and I'm glad you put it in the yellow, right? Because some readers may be very, very good at what they do and just decide to charge more than other readers because one of their experience, how long they've been doing it, or what type of reading it is.
Yes.
Right. So now exorbitant, right, isn't, I would say exorbitant is probably more than, $800. I mean, that's just my ballpark.
Yeah, it really depends on your where you're coming from. I had a reading from a woman for $600, and it was a very life-changing reading for me.
Right. And that's the thing.
And I would have never paid that back in the day, but as I'm professional myself, I really need people who are on par.
Yeah.
And I think that's for myself, over the years of charging what I'm worth has been really challenging. It wasn't actually until I think you and a couple other people that said to me, it doesn't dawn upon me that not everybody it can read without cards. Not everyone can be as accurate, that those things that I take them for granted in a way, I guess, because it just happens. It's just how it is. And I guess it made me think when, you have a wait list, you're booked out, you need to raise your prices. And I think because of the area in which we live in, I thought, well, I want to still be able to help people, but I want to make sure that I'm also valuing myself as a reader.
Right. And so, Bill always taught that, he was always little.
We're speaking about Bill Trivet here, who's pictured in the video. He was one of the owners of New Visions Books and Gifts, who taught many, many tarot readers and astrologers through his school. Absolutely. So that's who we're speaking about here.
He used to always tell me too, like, you need to raise your prices. You need to charge more. There needs to be an equal exchange of energy. You need to do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And, I secretly charged less.
Yeah.
And I did tell him, I was like, he's like, are you charging $50 per reading? I was like, no, Bill, I'm not. And he was like, God.
And it's just about that journey as a professional,
right?
Like no matter what profession you're in, if you're a plumber or if you're an artist or you're a musician, as you begin to value yourself more and understand the value of what you offer, and also, looking at your market, where you're living. So that's why we make this in the yellow category, because it really depends on where you're living. If you live in California versus here, cost of living is more expensive. Right. So, and of course it comes with experience and all that. But the other thing I would share is if somebody just finished training to be some sort of reader and they're just right out of school, or they maybe necessarily didn't have schooling and they just decide they're going to be a reader, it's kind of a red flag for me if they immediately are charging the same rate or more, or higher than the local area, without having mentorship, without working with another person, and without giving away free readings. Like when I have a new style of reading that I was playing around with, because I wanted to work more with going deeper into my medical intuitive readings with more bullet points to touch on in the reading instead of just drawing the aura and I wanted to go more detailed.
Right.
And so when I was doing that process, I wasn't charging. I was like, hey, who wants to be the support for me? Because I'm honing in my skill for this new way of how I'm picking up information. And so that for even reading for over 10 years, like that's for free. Like if you don't have to charge, and I don't think it's right to do that right outside of being a reader. I mean, maybe taking donations because your time is valuable,
right,
but not forcing that. And that's just one of my personal opinions for that. But there is no right or wrong. So I want everyone to know that each of these circumstances, because this is in the yellow category, it really depends on circumstances. In the bottom line is, are you coming at it from a place of integrity of what's best for you and for your client together equally?
Right.
Number 3 yellow flag is emergency readings. If I'm on your Facebook page or I'm on your social media channel or on your website and you have something that says, I'm here for emergency readings now available, emergency readings now available, that's a red flag. That's a red flag. Because if you're giving away your power, like, I need a reading right now, like, that to me is a red flag, because you might not be in your right mindset to receive the information properly. You may be coming into the session biased, wanting to hear a certain thing because you're so scared about maybe a particular outcome with a relationship or a job that you want someone to give you some clarity, and you might slant it. And I think if you're a very self-aware person, emergency readings, I've done this. I know you've done this. And it's because we want to go and get another perspective. We're approaching the situation of, I want someone who's outside of my personal situation right now that can give me a perspective that I can then think about and meditate on and then make my decisions from there. Right. And it may feel like an emergency because we're like, I'd like to get it as soon as possible. But if you're doing it from a place of lack, from a place of scarcity, from a place of fear, entering into, I need this now, that's a big yellow flag that someone would allow that. Now, one example is I had multiple times people call the center and say, my partner just died yesterday. I need a reading. I heard you have a medium there. And I was like, wait a minute. For my particular service, I wait at least 6 months after someone has passed, because it's really important that they go through the grieving process and for that spirit to be on the other side completely, because they have to acclimate. There's a process of dying and death, leaving the body and entering into the spirit realm to even actually communicate properly with someone. And I had someone call me and they said, well, I called someone up the street and they'll read for me tomorrow. And I said, okay, well, you can go read with that person. And I explained to them why I don't do that, because I want to make sure that we're honoring you, your grief, your loved one who hasn't completely crossed over. You're more than welcome to. That reader, for the most part, I don't know them. Maybe they are able to connect to the person on the other side clearly. But in my experience, it takes time for them to transition. And you may not get, for what you're putting your money out there, you may not get that. And to me, it just feels like it's being, exploiting someone's sadness and grief and taking advantage of someone when if you would take a reading, emergency reading for that case. Yeah. Agreed. So you ready to go on some green lights, some good things?
Green
Let's
lights.
end with some good empowering things, everybody.
Absolutely.
All right, Denzy, let's have you read the first one.
All right. So humility and approachability, that's a big one, right? Someone who has just a warm and caring energy will always be someone that I choose to get a reading from. One, because they will explain things, I believe, clearly, because they would want me to get the information just as they would want themselves to get the information. Like, being humble about your reading and not gloating about it means that you have my best interest in mind when giving me the reading, right? And accountability too. So approachability, if you seem walled off, right, and kind of just, your attention is elsewhere, but here's my reading, I'm going to read you the cards and have a nice day, like, that's not personable.
To be engaged.
Yeah, right. I'm as a client, I don't want to just be another number for the day. Right. I want to have a connection with you during the time that we're having that reading. So
now, I don't understand how that can work, and this is just from my process for reading. The only space in which I get information is when I'm fully present, not in my mind somewhere else. That is my hookup. That is my hookup to spirit, being fully present in the space with the client, being fully present to what's going on in them, because I get information from them. I get information from the space around them. And if I'm somewhere else, now I may seem as if I'm going somewhere else in my mind if I close my eyes, or how I'm getting my information clairvoyantly or whatever, but I'm fully there. So I can't understand how someone could be nonchalantly not fully present in the space. That just doesn't compute to me.
It's like the Miss Cleo, right?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe. God love her. You know why? Because she's a story character in this whole storyline that we're like actually living right now. Like, she is where we're moving away from.
Yeah.
I feel like I need a t-shirt that says Miss Cleo. Like, just a Miss Cleo t-shirt.
Yeah.
Just, I don't know.
Thanks, but no thanks.
Yes. So number 2 is trauma informed. So I spoke about this earlier. I think it's really helpful to know what to expect. Really knowing what to expect. And I'll share a brief story about a Reiki training. I had a Reiki student that had come. She wanted to take her Reiki training over because she wasn't quite sure. She felt that she didn't really get the best Reiki training. She wasn't quite sure if she was ready to teach others. Now, she didn't get a Reiki manual. And what we do for our particular Reiki training is we have a manual. It's set up just like any sort of course you would go through. There's a lot of hands-on, there's mentorship, there's all these supports. And when she came to us, she was sharing, okay, we're about to do the attunement process. And she's like, okay. And so as we're sharing with her what that process is, she was very confused. And she said, this isn't what I learned at all. And I said, okay, what did you learn? She said, well, when I was with the practitioners, we were about to go in to do these Reiki attunements with the students. It was 2 practitioners. It was a husband and wife. And the husband had me take my hands and put them on my breasts and rotate my breasts clockwise like 10 times and counterclockwise 10 times. And then I had to do that to activate the chi and the energy, the Reiki energy, to be able to give the attunements. So if you're not watching the recording right now, video, Denzy is covering his mouth with his hands because he's so appalled by this. Now,
I'm not even a Reiki practitioner, and I know that's definitely.
Yeah. So I was so like in a space when she told us this. I was like, oh my gosh, you poor thing. And I don't want anyone to feel ashamed when I have to tell you that that's not allowed. That's actually nothing to do with Reiki. That has nothing to do, oh my gosh. But because in the space of, let's just talk about Reiki and even maybe covens, for example, where there's a lot of stuff that happens that you don't know what's going to happen when you go there. What's going to happen? Like, what's the ritual? What's the journey? What's the process? What's the etiquette? You don't know what to expect. This is where when we go into close-knit communities that might have just secrecy around how they process things, and they're not open and let you know, okay, for your first visit, this is what to expect. This is what we'll be doing. That's trauma informed. If you're not trauma informed and you're letting people know so that their nervous system can come in more relaxed than they could be, obviously they're going to be meeting new people. There's a little social anxiety that could be there, right? But if they know at least what to expect, they're more open to be able to connect and create a strong connection in that community with those people, if that space is really community anchored and supported in that way versus potential weird underbelly kind of stuff that's happening. Yeah. So in this situation, to be trauma informed, explaining what to expect from your reader is really powerful. If you're a reader, you can tell your people, this is what's going to happen when you have a session with me. This is how long it's going to last, so they're respecting your time. If the reading's only 20 minutes and they're going 2 hours, that's disrespecting your time. That's unprofessional. Mm-hmm. They need to be respectful of you too. You might have a kid to pick up from daycare or something like that. So trauma informed is explaining what to expect. And I think about this Reiki student, if she would have known, or even anyone would have known, what is really traditionally happens in Reiki training, she would have immediately said, this isn't okay what you guys are doing. This is really, and it was strange to me that it was just a husband and wife together. And I thought, that's interesting. I don't know what that situation is, but if she was in a classroom with 10 other people versus one student and 2 other people that are in a partnership, that probably would not have happened.
So was it just her? Were there other students?
No, it was just her. Oh, so she was in a space where, she maybe doesn't even really have the space to speak out because she has 2 people in her presence that have this hierarchy of power, that are the teachers. They are the instructors. She's supposed to listen to them.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah. So trauma informed, everybody. That is a great green flag. If they're telling you what to expect, what's going to happen, that is something that I give thumbs up to. How about number 3, Denzy?
Yeah, some self-doubt. A little is actually normal for us readers, and I know you and I have talked about this quite a few times where, it doesn't matter how much experience you have or how many hundreds or thousands of readings that you've done, there's always a little bit of self-doubt, right? Even after a reading, right? Yeah. Like, especially after, right? Did I do the best job I could have? Yeah. For that individual, and continuously asking them, do you have any questions? Do you have any questions? Because I want to make sure that I'm not missing something, because I may doubt myself a little bit. So I have to ask you those questions to make sure that I've covered all of my bases, because I want you to leave with a full experience and not something that is not up to par with my perception of where my readings should be.
So I always get really nervous before a reading,
Mhm.
especially because if someone's coming for an afterlife communication, even more so, because I know that they're grieving and that they have expectations, and I want to make sure that I can deliver. And I
Yeah.
also know that it's always up to spirit, that I have no control over what comes through. I'm just the messenger.
Right.
I was even more nervous when I had to read for you. You had
Mm.
scheduled with me years ago, and we've been friends for a long time, but I was like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this is my friend. And I knew that I could read for you. There are definitely times when I have friendships that I'm like, I just can't read for you. I know that we're too close at this point, that
Right.
it's just not going to come through. It would be biased. But
Yeah.
at that point, I was like, I know I'm supposed to read for you. And I was really nervous that I was going to let you down. And then at the end of the session, I remember there were some things that we couldn't validate, that we couldn't
Yeah.
confirm, that you were like, I don't know. I don't know that information.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or what that is.
Yeah.
And I was like, afterwards, like, I don't know. Like, I hope that I helped. I hope that, especially because I think there was a mother involved that I was feeling that was not well in her mental health, that I was worried that she was going to listen to the recording. That's what my thoughts were afterwards. She's going to listen to this recording. She's grieving her son. Her son's friend went to see this woman. She's probably going to, this lady's crazy. And now I'm going to hurt myself because even more it drives me deeper into despair.
She loves you.
But want to tell the
She
story
loves you.
about what happened? Because I was so nervous about
Tell
that.
me the story. That was one of the most powerful readings I've ever had. But yes, continue.
No, but you had said with me, you didn't know about the information that I shared. You couldn't validate it.
Right. Because I didn't know those aspects of that part of his life.
Yeah, and because I cared about you so much as a friend, I was really concerned for this mother that was going to listen to this reading, that wasn't present at the reading. And I was concerned about her. I was like, she's not doing well. I was feeling that.
You know what's really amazing?
What?
Is I knew you felt that way, so I didn't share it with her.
You didn't share it with her. Oh, I never knew that.
Yeah.
That's so great, because I was really nervous. I was like, I just don't want, if someone's in not the right place to hear that, I don't know. And it's, again, I let it up to God. It's out of my hands. But you had shared with me the information that I remember sharing. You had called me a couple days later, and I was like kind of freaked out about your calling me. I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
And then you said, I was getting a very clear image of a pewter heart-shaped box.
Yes.
That was given to this mother.
Yeah. So, and I know she would totally be okay with me sharing this, right? So remember, I was asking my friend if he had a message for his mom, right? And he kept showing that pewter silver heart-shaped jewelry box, right? But he wouldn't show us what was in it, no matter how many times you asked.
Yeah.
Right?
And you didn't know this existed.
And I didn't know it
You're like,
existed. I had no clue,
Yeah.
So when I was relaying the reading to his mom, I said, one last thing. I said, there was this one thing that, like, he wouldn't show us what was inside of this, like, heart-shaped jewelry box. And she was like, oh my God, I have one of those. I was like, okay, you should open it and see what's in it, because this was a message for her, right? Clearly. And of course, my friend would have done it in style like that. So she found the jewelry box that was hers in his desk drawer of his writing desk. And she opened it, and there was a single Hershey's kiss in the box. One last kiss for his mom. It was one of the most beautiful things I've laid witness to. It was amazing.
Did you tell me that he used to do that for her, though? He used to give her Hershey kisses or anything like that? It was just a Hershey kiss.
Yeah. One last kiss.
One last kiss. Wow. Well, honestly, I'm a reader. You're a reader. We still get really nervous, and we get doubt. We self-doubt. We doubt if we're going to be able to support. And I think it comes from a place of love. It comes from a place of, I want to do my best here. So I think that's a green flag if there's some self-doubt.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it keeps us humble. Number 4 is admitting that we're less than 100% accurate. We can know that we're not always right. And by saying that, I think that's a really good sign that you have a really good ethical reader. Yeah. Self-respect and self-care are really important. That if you're taking care of yourself as a reader, you're taking care of your boundaries. If your reader is someone that just really is struggling with a lot of physical and mental illness, like that sometimes is something that you want to steer clear of. And I've seen people in general, if you're a helper of any nature and you're not helping yourself, that tends to over time have its toll on your ability to really support people. So that's a thing that you want to, if someone's really taking good self-care of themselves, you know, they don't have to be 100% like super fit and healthy. We're not saying that, but if they're showing that they take care of themselves and the way that they present themselves, that's a good sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
We already talked about charging their worth based on the market.
Yep.
That's okay for a reader to charge, guys. We're not living monastic lifestyles.
Nope.
Authenticity and real. So being real with yourself and being real as a reader, not the spiritual bypassing stuff, but being authentic and allowing some of the spaces of our real self to come out.
Yeah.
And having accountability. So we're willing to present reviews to you. If you have a reader you want to go to that's new, ask for their reviews. Do you have any feedback testimonials that you can share from other people? Or do you have someone that I can call? I want to call, this person to make sure that you're a good reader. Actually value that. I actually had someone recently that wanted me to give them a call, a client of someone that I go see professionally. And they said, could you do a testimonial to this person? They want to work with me, but I don't know if they need more than just these written testimonials, because you can make those up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can actually hold them accountable by calling or getting the phone numbers if those people are available to talk to them. And then also it'd be good if they're willing to accept feedback. I think that's important too. So we have two more here. Making sure they know their professional scope of practice. Like we said earlier, they're not a counselor or a doctor. We refer out if we're concerned. And it's a good sign if we have a website or a social media presence. We don't always have to, because some of us people who are readers are very energy sensitive to electromagnetic frequencies, to cell phones, to cellular devices. So it's not something you should raise your eyebrows if someone doesn't. But if they do, it's a little bit easier for you to see them and hold them accountable. If they would be a reader that's harmful, you could, of course, leave a bad Google review or put something up on their social media, or just watch if other people are doing the same. So, and then the last one.
Yeah, they empower you to take your life to the next level,
Yeah.
leaving you feeling like you have clarity, right?
Yeah.
And that you now have the best opinions to make the best decision for yourself. You it's a little more clear. And I love leaving a reading, even ones that I do myself, where I'm like, oh, I know now, even though I don't agree with your decision, universe, I know now. Right.
Yeah.
And it's very liberating when you have clarity, like Pat was talking about, that reassurance. Like I knew that, but I needed somebody else to tell me I knew that, because I doubted myself. Right. So those are really important key aspects of a green light go for a reader.
Yeah. I mean, that's really why we're here anyway. To sum up really what we've talked about today and in the last episode, because we're going to be cutting this into 2 episodes for sure, since it's so long and beautiful. But to recap everything that we really are about in these last 2 episodes, it's about empowerment. We want to empower you if you're a reader. If you need some professional support, I'm happy to connect with you, to coach with you, or to refer you to people that would be a really good fit for you. I'm so grateful and very fortunate to have a lot of really amazing readers that are colleagues of mine that also coach and mentor. And again, this is to promote the profession being moved out in a way that's really going to shine light on how amazing we can be and how supportive we can be to this world. Right. So if you need support as a reader, reach out. I'm happy to get you someone that can work with you. And also, if you are someone that's really supportive of professional readers, of intuitive readers, how you can support us is we're going to be putting some information in the show notes. And it may not be immediate in the show notes, but if not, we'll continue to put it on our social media when it's time, because Bex at this time is she's working with legal counsel for us to make movement and petition to change this law in Pennsylvania. So we would love your support with that. So stick around with following our social media pages. We'll put those in the show notes for all of our pages, that you can keep an eye on that and support us in that way. And we will also have a Google form that we're going to put in the show notes, that if you do have something you want to share, a reader in your life that's made an amazing difference, that you want to shout out to them in a great way and say, they've changed my life. Whoever it is, you can give us our social media handles, whatever. I would love to just tag this episode to them and say, hey, by the way, you have fans, and we hope that you know that you're a green flag person, you're a green light person, and we have all these people that are, giving us Google reviews or Google form. Sorry, it's a form that we'll have you complete to share someone that you really has made an impact on your life, but also to use that space if there is someone that you want to hold accountable, that we will please ask that you will share your name. We will not share this information publicly with that person, but if we get enough issues or reports of an individual, where no matter where they are, a name or something like that, that are having issues, we would be happy to find some way that we can create some support for you, some resources, and so that we can hold this person or these multiple people, hopefully there's not more, but hold them accountable.
Right.
And that's the only thing that's going to create change. That if
Right.
we continue to empower ourselves, be aware of those red flags, and hold people accountable, hold those other people accountable until there is some sort of, legal more ramifications, or if there ends up being licensure for this type of work or something like that. We really don't know.
Right.
But yeah.
Yeah. I really enjoyed being here, Kara. What a great space you hold here
Thank you.
for all practitioners, not just tarot readers like myself or witches or pagans, but your holistic center holds space for all walks of healing, right?
Yeah.
Not just one particular aspect of spirit. Like you said, there's
Yeah.
Christians, pagans, witches, and they all exist together.
And medical too,
And
because
medical.
even the holistic realm of people, there's this polarization. Well, the medical things, they're bad and they give you pharmaceutical drugs. And, we're beyond that polarization. We don't want
Right.
to be feeding into that. We want to have people from all walks being able to serve, whatever it's mind, body, or spirit, whatever service that they need to present. So yeah, we're very fortunate though, because of Bill and Bob,
Yeah.
because of New Visions, Books and Gifts, and because the light that they've shined in South Central PA to give the framework for these other spaces to open up, these other spiritual communities. I mean, back in the 80s when they opened, 1987, like this is like
Yeah.
so
That's the year I was born.
yeah. But with the age of TikTok witches and social media, and now with sharing all this stuff, we have what I saw coming. I knew it. I started seeing it, and I kept going, hashtag mainstream metaphysics. Hey, you can buy a chakra candle at Five Below. Hashtag mainstream metaphysics. Hey, you can buy crystals at Target now. Hashtag mainstream metaphysics. I was like, it's coming, guys. And I kept saying it for years. And I was like, before 2020, before we had all this boom on TikTok and it becoming more the occult revival, we'll call it.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. And I said, I know when it comes, we're going to have a lot of people come into the store and start coming out and having their personal awakening. And again, they're all going to have all different options and a full spectrum of places to sit or go travel down. And there's going to be misuse of power. There's going to be misunderstandings. There's going to be misinformation. There's going to be fear. And I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm here because I know that I have the community, and we have so much love and support globally for this movement and self-directed spirituality that we here together to shine light on misuse of power. And the only way that we can rectify that is through love, through forgiveness, through not creating a fight back situation, and through honoring ourselves and always trusting ourselves first. All of this journey in taking our power back is learning to trust and love ourselves. And that's the whole purpose of it.
Yeah. Well, I will gladly support wherever I can. And if anyone listening to this would like to check more out about me, you can visit my website. It's denzydark.com.
Denzy with a Y.
Yeah, DENZY, dark.com. A lot of my artwork's up there. You can purchase some of my poetry books there as well, if you choose to. You obviously don't have to, but I would like to hear from you. Maybe hear some feedback on this podcast, at least my contributions to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for having me, Kara.
Yeah.
A real blessing.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and we'll put in the show notes again to follow the Serpent's Key, New Visions, Books and Gifts, Firefly Hollow Wellness Center, and of course this podcast. If you love this podcast, please give us a review. We really appreciate that. It's an amazing way for people to find out about it. And if you're also, another way you can support Miss Beck is by sharing this episode, part 1 and or part 2, with people out there so they have more awareness of what's happening with the PA witch hunt and what we're doing here to empower and to bring love instead of fear into our community and to the world globally. So thank you guys so much for listening, and be well until next time, my friends.
Thank you for listening to the Mind Body Detox podcast. We wish you wellness and health in your mind, body, and spirit. And be well until next time, my friends.